Hi everybody, welcome back. This is class 4 and the course is penetration testing methodologies. We are at part 3 of class 4. So this is basically the security, the guidelines for security testing and phases for pen testing class. So in this part 3 of this class, I will go over the need for methodologies, penetration testing versus vulnerability testing. Then I'll talk about phases of penetration testing. After that, I'll teach you pre-attack phase, and I'll also get you familiar with the passive reconnaissance phase. So, well, it's a fun lineup of topics and interesting subjects which you'll be basically going over into this class. So let's dive right in. All right, first one. Need for a methodology. Why do we need a methodology, right? So you guys, I tried to explain that to you in earlier classes also, and this is a concept which kind of sinks into you slowly, but once you understand it, then you know that this is the way to go. As a penetration tester, you always follow those methods and techniques which you learn during your course of a training like this. Well, it has been observed that even hackers go through their attacks in a strategic manner, and I mentioned that earlier too. So methodology ensures that the exercise is done in a standard manner and documented, and repeatedly results are given to a security process, right? And it basically gives you your strategies, your inputs again, and also it tells you the precise phases in performing a particular technique or doing a particular testing process, right? So penetration test, let's do a comparison. Penetration test versus vulnerability test. So penetration tests are basically designed to achieve a specific attacker simulated goal, and should be requested by customers who are already at their desired security posture, right? So that is a penetration test. So a typical goal could be access the contents of a prized customer database on the internal network, or it could be to modify a record in an HR system. So there is a particular goal, which you're given when doing a penetration test, right? On the other side, vulnerability assessment are basically designed to yield a prioritized list of vulnerabilities, and they are basically generally for your clients who already understand that they have some kind of vulnerability within their system, and they would want you to go look into that security part of their system. So the customers already know that they have issues, and simply they need to help, or they need your help as a penetration tester to identify them and to prioritize those issues, right? So in simple terms, vulnerability assessor or assessment happens through a list oriented, and penetration testing is goal oriented. Like, that's the key difference between both of them. It's very important to understand this difference, because then you know that what comes in the realm of penetration testing and what falls into vulnerability testing. Okay, all right. So let's go through the phases of penetration testing. So first is the pre-attack phase. So in this phase, basically the focus is on gathering much or as much information as possible about the target to be attacked. It's called the pre-attack phase. So you get all the information. So it could be invasive, such as gathering information through scanning, or it could be non-invasive, such as reviewing public records and so forth, right? So next is, so you have the pre-attack, then comes the attack phase. So in attack phase, so this phase is basically, you've done your information is gathered, now in pre-attack phase. Now on basis of the information, you plan an attack strategy. So during the attack phase, the attack strategy is developed and it is carried out. So it is basically you go and execute your attack strategy based on what information you collected in the pre-attack phase, okay? So next is the post-attack phase. So now you have done the attack, you performed the attack based on information you had. So the post-attack phase is crucial part of the testing process. Why? Okay, so as the testers need to restore the network to its original state, right? Because that's what some of you have to do, because you've done your attack, you have to restore it back. So this involves your cleaning up of your testing processes and removing vulnerabilities that you've created using your different things which you or different plans which you executed during your attack phase. So all these exploits which you crafted during attack phase, so you have to kind of roll back so the system is not left open and vulnerable. So until all systems are tested and returned to their original state prior to testing is what post-attack phase does. And the thing is, as a penetration tester, as a good penetration tester, these phases of penetration testing should be followed. Every phase is as important as the other, but of course you have to do a rollback in the post-attack phase, or based on what you have agreed with the client. You have to execute those permissions and those checklists. All right. So let's talk about the pre-attack phase. So the pre-attack phase consists of the hacker's attempts to investigate or explore the potential target, right? Ultimately, it boils down to the information gathering, and it may involve competitive intelligence gathering, social engineering. It may involve like you're breaching physical security and so forth. So this is oftenly done in a very stealthy manner, and the attackers typically spend more time in the pre-attack phase than the actual attack phase. Mind you, I have seen instances in which attacks have been planned years in advance, not even months. So the attacker basically is planning, waiting for the right moment to strike. The strike is usually a very short time period. When the attack happens, they just get the information and go out. Usually, a lot of times it is they keep on spreading information or program bits here and there, and only sending information in bits and pieces once they think that they have gained access to the system, right? So pre-attack phase, a very important phase. You could catch a lot of bad guys who are kind of sitting within your system and trying to do something if you follow the right checks and measures during the pre-attack phase. So as a penetration tester, you should know the importance of a pre-attack phase. All right. So also in the pre-attack phase, the beginning with usually it's always there's a starting point, right? And the beginning is always with a passive reconnaissance. So the tester will gather as much information as possible from the target company. So as a tester, you go in and say, give me some information, let me know a little bit more about the company. So most leaked information is related to the network topology and the types of services running on the network, right? And the testers can use this information to provisional or do some provisional testing and map on or create a map on your network for planning more coordinated attacks and also do strategies on those attacks. So that is all part of the passive reconnaissance, right here. So that is all part of a pre-attack phase. So another thing is when you're dealing regarding your publicly available information, right? So access to that information is independent of the organization resources and thus can be effectively accessed by anyone, right? Because they are all public information. You can go, what company you are working with or trying to do penetration testing with. You go out there, get all the public information which you can. That is very important as part of your penetration testing pre-attack phase. So this information can even be contained on systems which are unrelated to the organization. Could be some internal systems, some outsourced systems, some other resources, right? All right, so let's talk about passive reconnaissance. So passive reconnaissance involves the few activities which are there, which are part of passive reconnaissance. First being you're mapping the directory structure to web servers and or to your FTP servers, right? The second could be gathering your competitive intelligence over news groups for references to your submissions, which you have done with different organizations, bulletin boards, industry feedback sites, and so forth. So those are also pretty critical. And these are all related information that can be obtained from job postings, a number of personnel which you have in your organization, published resumes which you have publicly available, and also the responsibilities which you have listed in your job responsibilities. Usually what happens in the passive reconnaissance phase is that they try to get all the information, what system, because usually when you post a job information, you say, oh, I want an expert in XYZ technology. So somebody who is doing passive reconnaissance knows your technologies which you're using, kind of, right? So then they can guess, oh, this is what is on their back end and that's what they're using. This could also include estimating the cost of support infrastructure and what kind of support you're using, what is the benefit, what is the cost which your company is kind of incurring on that. You can always see what kind of support, if you call their support line, that what is the engagement strategy there just by talking to the people, the knowledge which they have and so forth, right? Also, another thing is to determine the worth of the infrastructure interfacing with the web, right? What are you on, right? What kind of servers and what kind of structure you're part of. So another thing is your asset classification, as it is described using what standards you're using, and it's all described under ISO 17799. This may also be carried out when you're doing a passive reconnaissance. So this is all to ensure that the penetration test is, or penetration tester is able to quantify, I would say, the risks, the acceptable risks to a business, and retrieving the network registration information. This can be easily done from Whois database, which you can just go online on Google or something, say Whois, and you can get a lot of information from there. You can get information about the critical assets, information from the different financial websites, and also information about what software you're using, what servers you're on, and what services you are registered with, and third-party services also. You can get information from all the services which could be part of passive reconnaissance. Another thing is to determine the product range and services offered by the target company, and what are they available? Are they available online? Can they be requested online, and so forth? So a tester can estimate the threat level posed by checking the available documentation, which is of course available online if you're doing offerings online. The associated third-party products and vulnerabilities, if those products have anything, some cracks which are there online, different versions, and what are the weaknesses of each version. So all these can be basically part of your passive reconnaissance, right? Another thing is document sifting. So this basically refers to gathering information solely from your published materials. It's called document sifting. This includes like skimming through web pages, through source code, identifying key personnel who are involved in that, also investigating them further through background checks based on published resumes and LinkedIn groups, and people saying, oh, I'm employed here. So you can basically try to see like who all is there and try to do some checks on those. Also, you have access to publicly available information, such as if somebody has a personal web page, or if somebody has their email listed out somewhere. You can also, if you have access to job databases, you can get information from there, because a lot of people put a lot information about their professional life, and some personal information can be found there too. And properties pages, such as what properties you have bought, soft copies of any documents which you have listed down there if you own a property. So all those are part of document sifting. So this is also part of your passive reconnaissance phase. Another thing which I talked about earlier was social engineering. So social engineering can be done by identifying a conduit, a person who can be a target easily based on the information gained about that person. So that's your conduit. And also profiling that person, right? That's a very key thing. So this may be in terms of position, which the position the person has, the habits, the preferences, the weak traits of a person. So you can do a profiling on that person. So the objective here should be to extract sensitive information and then catalog it in a log, that what sensitive information can you get by this person by doing your social engineering or performing social engineering techniques, which are all part of passive reconnaissance. All right. So I think this is a good class for you to understand how to secure yourself, to understand the different weaknesses which can be easily caught with different techniques when it comes down to pen testing. All right. Thanks for joining us in this class. I will see you in next class. Until then, goodbye.